Hi, Haunted Heart fans. I'm Quill, and I'm one of the co-creators of The Tarot Reading. If you're in DC, I've got an experience for you. The Tarot Reading is an interactive variety show performing May 9th through the 26th, and I guarantee you have never seen anything like it. In it, eclectic artists perform variety show acts, each inspired by the tarot mythos. Each act is interactive and made for one adventurous and consenting audience member. What happens next can be almost anything. We've done seances, belly dances, mad science experiments, stand-up routines, role-playing games, Gestalt dream analysis, and that weird one involving a suitcase full of spam, just to name a few. Each one is always completely honest, totally amazing, and never happens the same way twice. So, if you believe in the magic that happens in unexpected places, please come experience the tarot reading. That's May 9th through the 26th in DC. You can find out more at thetarotreading.org. That's the tarot, T-A-R-O-T, reading.org. Don't forget to bring a sacrifice. I'm serious, I won't let you in without a sacrifice.
Thank you for letting us in.
I was burying bodies out in the desert.
Neighbors claimed they practice witchcraft.
Quiet. Everything will be fine.
Welcome back
Welcome.
to an exciting high energy.
High energy.
High energy.
High energy.
Not high energy, but high energy. Like opposite of low. Not like Percocet.
Oh.
I feel like
Not
we
like
have to clarify
Percocet?
sometimes.
Okay.
Not like
I
Percocet.
wasn't going there, but all right.
I mean, I will be honest with you at this point in time. I've never considered myself a pill popper. I've never considered myself somebody who's going to buy prescription drugs off market. But if anybody has a prescription for Zofran, I will pay you many monies.
Many money.
Do you know what Zofran is?
I do not know what Zofran is, actually.
Zofran is the fucking pill that some smart fucking scientists made up to cure nausea.
Cure nausea?
Yeah, you feeling nauseated? Really nauseated. You take some fucking Zofran and then you feeling better. But guess what? It's prescription only. So you can't get it over here in the fucking United States of America unless you go to the fucking hospital and pay thousands of fucking dollars to get a fucking treatment that consists of a cup of water and some fucking Zofran.
That's true. So
you lay in your bed and suffer.
Uh-huh. That's true. I went to the doctor. We had this conversation the other day, not on the show, but I went to the doctor a few months back because I thought I had scratched my cornea because my eye was bloodshot red and I could not, it just felt like something was in there. So I went to the doctor to get, just some antibiotic drops. And I got them. Mm-hmm. And then 3 weeks later, got a bill for $1,700.
Yes. I went because of a UTI. Only the second UTI I've ever had in my life, you guys. And it was so bad I literally could not sit still. I was crying in my bathtub, and then it was really sad.
How's that different from any other day?
Well, it was different because I was running a bath to sit in because I had heard if you sit in an Epsom salt bath that it would help. Mm-hmm. So I was doing that, and my water had gotten cold, so I was gonna run a little bit more hot water in. But see, my faucet in my bathtub was leaky. And so I had tied it up. So when I turned the faucet on to run more hot water out, it turned the fucking shower on. Ah. And it showered cold water down on me in the bathtub, crying with a fucking UTI. It was one of the saddest moments. And I was like, I'm going to the fucking ER. And I did, and it cost me $2,000 to piss in a cup.
Yes, ridiculous. We had, you want to go to here in America, you go to the doctor, and it's okay, I'm not going to sit down. on the paper. I'm not going to use that paper.
I'm not going to use that. Don't charge me for
No,
that. Take that off my bill.
Sorry.
I can start my own IV.
Can we turn the lights off in this?
Yeah.
In this
you ain't even got
office?
to run the electricity.
Don't
up in
run the
here.
electricity.
No.
I'm not paying for that.
I don't need no AC. You can
Matter
cut that
of
off
fact,
too.
I brought.
I just sit outside. Y'all come
No.
to me in my car. But for real, no. It's crazy. You really literally have to make a choice between like, am I gonna die, or like, am I gonna be okay if I just ride this out?
Yeah.
I'm in horrible suffering pain.
Yeah.
But I'm not gonna die, so I'm probably gonna keep my $2,000. When I'm sure that the scientists who invented fucking Zofran would have loved for me to just be able to pop a pill and be okay. Anyway, I feel like this is an old people podcast
Yes,
right
it
now.
is.
It time for us to stop ranting about the fucking U.S. healthcare system?
No, it is never time to
It's
stop.
never time to
Stop
ranting.
talking about the U.S. healthcare system. But for now, we're going to pause.
Please fucking.
And we're
Here's
gonna
the
do
thing.
this
I ain't
invocation.
even that.
No,
I ain't
see,
even
nope.
that like fired up. I just need some fucking Zofran. I will go with any plan that gets me some goddamn Zofran because I'm gonna tell you
Listen,
what, I'm living off
folks.
animal crackers, people, and I'm a hangry bitch.
Listen, folks, we have a P.O. box. Someone send this bitch some Zofran in the P.O. box.
Oh my god, if you fucking do, holy shit, I would marry you. I really truly would.
Don't put that out into the universe. Anyway.
Shit, I put it out there. I want some fucking Zofran. I'm trying to eat. A bitch is hungry. Still.
So we have an invocation to do for those who are new to the show. An invocation is when someone has decided to generously come on board our Patreon and help support the show. And as part of one of their benefits, we invoke their names on the show. We have candles that we have dressed with all sorts of good intentions for health, wealth, goodwill, and we light it for them, and it stays lit for the entire episode. And if you want your own invocation, you can head on over to Patreon and check out some of those tiers, bitch.
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 That was so beautiful and professional.
All right, so this week we are invoking the name of Kimberly K., who is a member of our Stay Spooky Squad. And your candle is lit.
And it will sit by our mics through the end of this episode, but will burn forever in our dark, dark hearts.
Yes, that was so beautiful.
I'm glad you appreciate it. The
Yes.
smoke is kind of hanging in the air in a really interesting way.
Yes, it is.
Maybe we just don't usually see that when it's dark out. It's not quite dark.
Or maybe it's just because we have really shitty matches.
Maybe. We got some fucking gluten-free vegan matches over here.
I have a few things. I am going to introduce. I want to introduce something to the show. A hot topics corner, if you will.
Okay.
So
We're
I just have a
talking
couple
like
of things.
band tees 3 for $20. Like, are we?
Yes, I have a new job at Hot Topic.
Amazing. Oh my God. Here's the thing. I would love that.
Like a little part-time job at the Hot
Yeah.
Topic.
I went to Hot Topic the other day though, and
That's not the same.
It's not.
No, it's not.
It's a lot of anime now, and I'm not shaming anime, but there's just like, it's a lot of color. And back in the day, it was like black, red, gray.
Yeah.
That was it. It's done. Every now and then you'd have some color on an Insane Clown Posse shirt, and that was it.
Well, you've gotten into this whole, like, I don't know, they're very into the fandoms now. Like,
Yes.
whereas opposed,
Yeah.
like, before,
It's all like Doctor
when
Who
we
and
grew
shit.
up, it was like, you know, Invader Zim
Yes.
and, you know, Nightmare Before Christmas.
Yeah.
And now they really sort of cater to, like, the fandoms. They even have extended into their LGBTQIA, like, market, which is really cool. But they've just expanded a lot more, and it's just different than what I was used to. Because, like, they've
Yeah.
gotten into, like, drag merch and all this other stuff, so...
Well, it almost feels like Spencer's now.
Well, they're owned by the same company.
Yeah, but they were clearly two different brands. I feel like when we were growing up, like they were two different. Like Hot Topic was where like punks and goths shopped, and Spencer's was a bit more approachable for everybody because it was like gag gifts and like a lot of different stuff. I mean, you could still find like
Dildos,
cool shit in Spencer's, but like
marijuana necklaces.
yeah, but they were shitty dildos. Don't buy your dildos from Spencer's. If you're listening right now and you're buying your dildos from Spencer's, your dilders, don't get your dilders from Spencer's. It's my
Your
PSA.
dilders.
No, don't buy them there. Please don't. Email the show, thehauntedheartpodcast@gmail.com. I'll send you some links. Don't do it.
No. But
Funhouse, Fun Factory. Fun Factory is where you need to get your dildos. I'm not kidding. Google it. You're
all right.
welcome.
Hey, Fun Factory, if you're in for a
You're
promo
welcome.
swap.
Yeah, you just let me know. Oh, I could do a great promo for Fun Factory.
Okay, cool.
Very interactive.
All right. So let's bring him back down. No, my hot topic is going to introduce the sort of the theme of the episode today. So I want to talk to you today about how I just read that China is cracking down on funeral strippers.
Yes, I saw that you posted this in the group.
I didn't post it. Someone else posted it.
Somebody else did?
But I
Okay.
commented on it. So, and this article sounds weird. It says China officials, but wouldn't that be Chinese officials?
I think it could be either way.
Okay, whatever.
Yeah.
China officials have launched its latest crackdown on funeral strippers. Funeral strippers. So they apparently there is a whole like scene for like when someone dies. They feel like the best way, or some people feel like the best way to pay their respects is to have like the biggest party or
We
gathering.
about to have a fucking blowout. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I'm down with that.
And apparently, you know, China isn't cool with that. So they're cracking down on it.
Why,
So
they want us to be sad?
They have set up a special hotline for the public to report, quote, any funeral misdeeds in exchange for a monetary reward, according to a news outlet. So they believe that a high turnout at funerals is a sign of honor for the dead. So apparently they'll have scantily clad women in sexy lingerie and revealing clothes, showing off their bodies in front of an electronic screen, displaying a black and white headshot of the deceased with text reading, "We offer profound condolences for the death of this man," are now a modern part of funerals in some rural areas of China.
I mean, fuck yeah. Like, that's exactly how I want my funeral to go. Like,
Why not? I don't understand what the point is.
Like,
if
roll
that's
my fucking casket out there and have that bitch dance on top of it. You just better make sure it's a good stripper because you know I'm critical.
Well, yeah.
You know when we go places, I always have commentary. Make sure that bitch is talented. You need to get that girl from the Gold Club in North
Right.
Carolina.
I just don't understand. Oh, girl, I think the Gold Club closed down years ago.
Yeah, it was a seedy operation.
But I just don't understand. If that's what their wishes were, like...
Fuck yeah. Well, I don't know. It sounds like maybe it wasn't their specific wishes. China's a little fucked right now, though, anyway. Like, they're doing a bunch of, like, horrible ethnic cleansing and shit. It's really bad. But this is also unfortunate because it sounds like a great time to me, honestly.
Yeah, totally.
That's how I want you to celebrate my passage of life.
I want you to string me up on a rotating...
You have said this.
Thing.
Yep.
String me up on a rotating thing before you cremate me. Mm-hmm. I want us to have a moment. I saw there was a video of a man, and it was like a little bar, and it like rotated around the ceiling, and he was just hung up and just rolling around and just swinging around the room. That's what I want.
It seems like, though, if you died of an illness, that might be an unfortunate, like, that might be an unfortunate choice that might lead to the spread of disease. You know what I mean? Like, I could see them banning that before I could see them banning, like, funeral strippers. Because, like, the strippers are fine. I mean, well, probably fine.
Yeah.
Depending on their personal choices, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But, like, I don't know. I don't see, like, a hygienic reason. They're all about, like, conforming to, like, party standards, though. So that's probably what's going on.
Yeah.
It's a real buzzkill, though. I think we should adopt it in the U.S.
Oh, totally.
You know we're contrarians, so we should spread that story and, like, get that going.
Get the message out?
Here in the States. Like,
Okay.
I'm into it.
All right. So yeah, that was my little hot topic section.
Yes. I appreciate your hot topic section. Session? Who knows?
Session.
Hot topics with Kenny.
Made me sound like Whitney Williams.
Yes.
How you doing?
Yes, well, I appreciate that because it ties into what we're talking about today.
Finally. They're like, God damn.
I'm like, what is this podcast
Fucking
about?
Finally. What is this show? Newcomers are like,
Yeah.
what is this? Newcomers have left.
Yeah, or probably have left the chat.
Bye.
New listeners have left the chat. It's fine. We're talking about thanatology, folks.
Who?
Thanatology. And no, I'm not going off on the Avengers movie again.
So listen. We had this idea to talk about this. Well, we've had it on the books for a while.
Yes.
But we decided to push it up because I was like, Katie, you talked about Thanos because we had a little moment, I think, with last episode.
We did.
Where you went off on a little Avengers rant, which we will not get into.
I will
again.
exercise my control.
And when we finished recording, I was like, we should move this up because, like, since you talked about the Avengers, like, it could be a cool, like, you know, thing or not. You probably don't think it's cool, but I thought it was cool. Where I mentioned Thanos and the Avengers, and then you just, like, had a mind, like...
I literally almost fell down the fucking stairs,
We were
y'all.
headed down the stairs, yes, and she just, like that... The memes that you see where the mind just
Yes.
fucking explodes.
That's what happened.
That's what happened to Katie, and she like backed her, like she fell against the wall.
I've been watching this fucking, like, I haven't really watched the movies religiously. I'm not really even sure that I've seen all of them. I think I've seen all of them, but there was enough time in between that I would forget them. But I didn't fucking realize that motherfucker's name was Thanos. Like, I knew that his name was Thanos, but I hadn't connected that because obviously I've known about thanatology for quite a while. And I've known about Thanos for a while. But I didn't connect the two in my mind until exactly that moment. And then I was like, damn. I still can't decide whether I'm impressed or whether it's too heavy-handed and I hate it. You know?
Mm.
You
I don't know. I don't pay that much attention to it.
I liked it when I didn't realize it. But, yeah. Now I think I'm leaning towards hating it because he's like a villain, and like death isn't necessarily a villain. It's just a part of life.
It's not. A lot of us see it as a villain. But and death comes in many forms.
Yes.
You know, we have experienced death.
Your fucking face when you said that, babe. Death comes in many forms. Sometimes you can be dead inside.
This is true.
He says as he stares right through my fucking soul.
Sometimes you can be dead inside. Sometimes, you know, death is about change.
Yes.
There are many different facets to death. And, you know, I think that the society that we have grown up in really sort of looks at death as like, you know, a mourning or a really negative light.
Yeah.
Whereas
there's a lot of fear. There's
like-
a lot of death aversion.
like
our
in some
society.
cultures, like what we talked about in the beginning with, you know, the funeral strippers, or even if you look down at, you know, in places like New Orleans and that culture where they, you know, have these sort of like celebrations or parades just to celebrate life. And I think that's a really beautiful thing. It's a hard thing for me personally to get to. I'm like not quite there. I would love to be there. But I just have an issue with my ego and the fact that I'm not permanent on this on this planet.
Yeah.
And it's okay because I can admit that. And I'm trying to work
What's
to
the
get to
first
that
step?
point to like be okay with I might get out here and fucking, you know, get hit by a fucking semi truck and die. Or I might live to like 137 years old and just be fucking miserable with my life. More than likely, the latter will happen.
Still sitting here doing this podcast.
150 years old. I'm still not dead. Motherfucker. Take me now. I'm there.
Yeah. I am okay, I believe, with my own, like, I'm not as afraid of my own death as I am of the deaths of other people that I love. Because that's where I get into like a rage issue.
Despite all my rage, I'm still just
Nicolas Cage. Yeah, the song of my childhood. No, I don't really fear death for myself, but I have a really difficult time dealing with the transition, right, from life for other people. So, but thanatology is something that can kind of help with that. So, thanatology, also, when it was first kind of coming into being, it was called Deathlore, which is just really hardcore.
Wait, Death Lord?
Deathlore. No,
Lore.
lore.
Oh.
As in like the lore of something. Yeah.
Death Lord is like a
Death Lord. It's like a metal band that I used to follow around when I was 16.
Fucking, that's a fucking Reddit username.
Yes, it
Death
is.
Lord 666.
I'm into it. It's my username. No, so thanatology or Deathlore, which is the older name, is the scientific study of death and dying. So thanatology investigates the mechanisms and forensic aspects of death, like body decomposition and those types of things, as well as psychological implications for people who are grieving, people who are mourning, and also, you know, the mental states, like the mental and social adjustments that people who are dying kind of go through.
Yeah.
The process of dying. If your death is as a result of like an illness or something where you know that it's coming and you're kind of like dealing with it, or not dealing with it. Either way.
Yeah.
So thanatology, a lot of people who have kind of just briefly, I guess, looked at thanatology or have heard about it. Sometimes you hear people be like, I want to be a thanatologist. Well, I mean, thanatologists exist, but there's really no such thing as a thanatologist that only works with thanatology. Usually this is a interdisciplinary type of thing. So you, for example, are something else first and then a thanatologist. So you're like a funeral director or a crematorium director or something. You could even be like a teacher or a counselor. And then thanatology is just kind of another layer that kind of adds on to your existing specialty, because obviously death is kind of the other side of the coin for life. And so it is relevant to a lot of different fields.
So you're telling me that I just can't get a certificate in thanatology and just make money?
No, you cannot.
Well, then what the fuck are we talking about?
You cannot. But you can actually get a certificate in thanatology, and I will talk about
Can
that
you really?
actually yeah, I'll talk about that in a little bit.
Holy fuck,
I actually have some
okay.
resources if people are interested. So, thanatology is kind of an interdisciplinary type of thing. So it is kind of like I listened to an interview with a thanatologist named Cole Imperi. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong. But she is a thanatologist, and she works as a funeral director. So it was kind of like the next layer for her, and she kind of wants to go into education with it to talk to kids about death, because in this country we have a lot of issues with talking about death in general.
Oh, yes, we do.
But we definitely have issues when it comes to talking to kids about death, because there's all kinds of, I mean, if you think about the news, like they're always reporting people dead. They're always showing like graphic, like images and stuff on screen, but we can do that and show kids the news, but we can't like talk to them in an understandable way about death and what it is and answer their questions and that type of thing.
Even in entertainment.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
you see like movies and all the time that have all of this like death and destruction in it. So a lot of the times our children and just people in general are getting their education about
Yes.
death and what that means through entertainment. And I think a lot of the times we try to shield and protect our kids from these sort of things, which is fine. I'm not trying to like parent anybody or tell them how to raise their children, but at the same time, like there is value in in educating your children
Yeah.
on that. And I just think that, entertainment, movies, what have you, media, news, like, it's a part of life. So,
Right.
at some point you talk to your children about having sex with the birds and the bees. So,
Well, a
you
lot of
might
parents
as
don't
well
do that
have-
either, which is another issue.
That's unfortunate.
Entirely. Yeah.
But they should go hand in hand.
Yeah. Totally. No, I think kind of like I don't know if you've listened to the most recent Netflix and Kill, which we recorded when I was dying. We talked about the movie Mercy Black, which is based on the case of the Slender Man stabbings in Wisconsin, not Washington. In Wisconsin, where, two 12-year-old girls attacked another 12-year-old girl and, stabbed her to death, almost killing her. She did survive. But I'm sure that, and I don't know what their upbringing was like, but, that's just one situation where you can shield your kids from you talking to them about death, but you can't necessarily control the world around them. Meaning
Right.
you can control their understanding of death to a degree until they get to a certain age, but you can't control whether, grandma gets sick and then they're not equipped with the tools to deal with that,
Exactly.
So, but that is an issue, kind of in this country, in our in Western culture in general. I think we're very uncomfortable with.
Listen,
with
we just have issues. We're like Vogue.
we do.
We're like Vogue. We've got a lot of issues.
Yes.
And we're just discussing one of them.
Yes. So, so thanatology, it's an interdisciplinary thing. You kind of bring it to other things that you're doing, and it's also relatively a young science. It was created in 1903. So, first of all, I use that term loosely as far as it being created because humans have been dealing with dying for as long as we've been alive.
Yes.
Right? So people have been talking about death. People have been exploring death through religion, through philosophy, through sociology, through spirituality. And we talk about, obviously we talk about the losses that we experience, and that goes back, hundreds of thousands of years.
Yeah.
As far as we go back. But thanatology as a proper science only goes back to 1903. So it's like just over 100 years old, which is really, really new for science.
Well, I think it sort of goes hand in hand with the technology of the time, like, because it's more, whereas I think, like, in human history, we have looked at death and studied death, like you said, through religion and
Right.
certain things like that, and through
Right.
a lot of, like, myths and,
Yeah.
and legends and things like that. And I think around that time is when you started to see, things started to develop for, just science's industry as a whole. And so I think that probably goes hand in hand, as to, like, when doctors were starting to get, because, like, 1903.
No, it's pretty new. It's pretty late, actually, because
Were doctors still doing crazy shit in 1903?
Yes.
Like we discussed.
Less crazy.
I'm trying to go back to our, crazy doctors
our weird,
episode.
yeah, ghosts in
And
your blood.
Yeah, ghosts in your blood, and I'm like, well,
No,
Yeah.
they were still doing some crazy stuff, like leeching was still a practice, but where they literally put leeches on your body to suck your blood out to get the equilibrium right. But
that's still a practice, though. People still do that.
No, but it was still widely practiced, I think, in the early 1900s, which is kind of a problem. Like, maybe
I
just
bet
have
they
a
didn't
Motrin.
fucking charge $1,700 goddamn dollars to put a
didn't.
fucking leech on you.
I bet they did not.
How much does a fucking leach cost?
That's
Let
a fair
me know.
point. Maybe I'll try that. Maybe you can also ship me some leeches to the P.O. box.
No, I'm gonna have to say a hard no on that one. I'm not gonna deal with no leeches.
Um,
I already got one sitting across from me.
So, no, 1903. So, science, the scientific revolution, I believe, we throwing it all the way back to high school history. I think that was like 1600s, 1700s. But there were definitely, like, I know biology goes all the way back to like the late 1600s with Mendeleev. I'm probably really wrong. It's okay. I'm going to leave it in.
It's fine.
But seriously, we were kind of starting to think about processes and systems and things like that. Certainly in the 1700s, definitely in the 1800s. So 1903 is actually kind of late for us to start applying that scientific mindset to death. And the guy who did it was a Russian scientist. His name was Ilya Mechnikov, and he was famous for his work in microbiology. And he did a lot of stuff with a process called phagocytosis. It's not really for this show. Maybe check out another one if you want to learn about that. Phagocytosis, I think. Might also be phagocytosis.
Would you
but
call
I
me?
didn't, but I didn't want to give it to you that way. But anyway, that's not why he's important to us. Mechnikov is important to us because in 1903 he established a scientific discipline devoted to the study of death. And Mechnikov argued that those who were dying had few or no resources for the experience of dying, and that an academic study would help those who were facing death have a better understanding of the phenomenon and reduce their fear of it. Which is really cool.
Yeah.
Very groovy.
I was going to say, leave it to the Russians.
Yeah.
It's
It's interesting that he, kind of had that perspective. But the Russians are pretty maudlin, macabre, we may say. That's why I like them. So Mechnikov based his ideas for thanatology on the fact that while medical students had their obligatory encounters with cadavers through anatomical studies, there was really no instruction on how to care for dying people. So meaning, as a medical student, like you operate, well, you don't operate, but you, what's the word? With a cadaver. We had to do it in high school.
You had to dissect?
Dissect, yes. Medical students dissect cadavers, and they, look at all the organs and stuff like that, and they kind of get comfortable with death in that way. And as a doctor, you kind of have to have a certain level of, I guess, comfort of a kind with death because you do have patients who die.
Well, you have to learn how to separate yourself from it.
Or compartmentalize.
Which is, kind of a double-edged sword because it helps you out, but at the same time, I think
also kills you a little bit inside.
It also, it kills you a little bit, and I think that sort of takes away a little bit of the, I'm not saying all doctors, but it does take away a little bit of that, humanity or understanding, I feel like, in some cases.
It can.
And, like I said, it just depends on the person.
Right.
And the doctor, but like I said, it is a double-edged sword.
Yeah. So Mechnikov was kind of looking at that situation and saying, all right, so, in this culture, doctors know about death from a from a clinical perspective.
Yes.
But nobody's really teaching anybody on how to care for a dying person from a mental standpoint, from a, social standpoint, from a philosophical standpoint. There's not really any research into that. And he kind of was criticized for that. There were very few scholars and educators that agreed with him. They did not kind of want to look at death through that sort of lens. And he really struggled to get the support that he needed to kind of realize his science, his thanatology studies. So he kind of broke it off into two new areas of study, gerontology and thanatology.
Gerontology. We're going to break that down. I'm going to use my one semester of medical terminology. Okay. Geron for geriatric, meaning old.
Yes.
Ology, meaning the study of.
Yes.
Break that down means the study of old people.
Yes. Technically, the study of the cultural, social, psychological, cognitive, and biological aspects of aging.
Okay, the study of old people.
Yeah. So gerontology was accepted pretty quickly because aging is, I guess, more palatable to people than death.
Well.
So gerontology was accepted reasonably quickly. However, thanatology took about 47 years for most people to accept as a science.
47 years?
Yes. They just thought he was a goth kid, I guess.
He's like a meme. It's been 47 years.
Yes.
That's crazy.
Yes. And even at that, even now, you know, how many fucking 117 years since 1903,
Math. We don't
thanatology
know.
is still not like a main. I mean, you would never hear somebody list like biology.
What are you
other
taking for your
ologies,
elective
thanatology.
today?
Yeah.
Well, I've got art 3, and then I'm going to go to chemistry, and then I've got thanatology.
Yeah.
Before lunch.
Yeah. And see, I mean, I personally think that would be a great situation to actually have a thanatology class in high school or
I would choose it as an elective.
Yeah, hell yeah. Because people need to kind of like know it's something everybody's going to have to deal with at some point in time, probably multiple points in your life, right?
Yeah.
As other people die. It would be helpful to have a fucking toolkit. And this is, you know, somebody with severe rage issues and grief processing problems. Like, I'm
Coming from someone who wishes she had someone to tell her how
Fucking
to
toolkit.
deal with death.
Yes. So thanatology sort of starts to be accepted in the 50s, but it doesn't really rise to like pop culture consciousness until the early 70s with the Death with Dignity movement. Now, the Death with Dignity movement, if you haven't heard of it, don't know about it, that is the movement for assisted suicide, assisted dying. It used to be called assisted suicide, but that's a little heavy.
You think?
Yeah. So now
I don't
it's
think
called
that would
assisted
make a
dying.
good subscription box name.
I don't think so. I don't think it. I don't think you'd be
Subscription
subscribed
box.
very long.
A one-time fee.
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't
Upfront.
mean to make a joke, but I mean to make a joke.
Yeah. I mean, we keep it light. So, but yes, assisted dying is still a very, very contentious topic. Oregon, I believe, was the first state to legalize assisted dying. And that's where it gets, like anything else, abortion and things like that, it gets kind of blown up into this like way oversimplified concept in the media and things like that. But basically it's a really complicated process where if you're terminally ill and you know you are going to die, like there's no survivability of the illness that you have, you will die. It will be a difficult process. It will be horrible for you and your family. In states that have assisted dying laws, you can basically petition to have a series of doctors. It's not just one doctor. Evaluate you mentally, physically, look at your diagnoses, make sure that they're truly not survivable, and then make sure that you mentally are not in a place of like, make sure that you're not suicidal, right?
Right.
That you're just trying to avoid all of the horrible pain and wasting away that you'd have to go through as a result of this illness so that you can die on your own terms. On your own terms is kind of like a buzz phrase for the assisted dying or death with dignity movement, because, you know, it's just looking at things pragmatically and saying, you know, rather than put my family through all this like expenses, kind of like what we were talking about at the top of the show,
Right.
medical expenses, and also just having to watch me like waste away, and, you know, me having to go through all of that horrible pain and potentially like lose my cognitive abilities and not know who my family is, and then the psychological impact of that on them and all of that. Like, let's just skip all that and we'll just have a great day, and then I'll just take a pill and pass away in my sleep.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's I think that's a totally valid point and a concern, because, I mean, there are very few of us who sort of have that luxury of just,
Right.
I'm going to go to bed and just, you know, and have that sort of peaceful transition
Right.
over. If there's
no
if there's
survivability,
no
there's no point.
survivability, if there's no why would you put your family through that? Why would you do that?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, to each their own, but I just don't see why that's anybody else's
Contested.
business.
Yeah, well,
You
there's
know?
a lot of things that aren't anybody else's business, but that's not the tea we sipping on today, girl. So, taking a step back, that's kind of when thanatology, this 1970s is when thanatology kind of rises to the public consciousness. That's when it becomes a term that like is understood more or less colloquially. Not something we talk about a lot still, even in 2019, but it's a bit more of a commonly used term. Taken just a half a step back into World War II, that's where thanatology gained some philosophical, I guess, supporters. Following World War II, the world was absolutely haunted with the memories of all of the casualties from what went on. And it wasn't just the U.S., it wasn't just the West. I mean, World War II, well, it was mostly just the West. But, Japan was in on it too, and it really kind of fucked everybody up real good.
Because it's a world war.
Because it's a world war. And so, everybody virtually had lost somebody. And it was such a period of reflection that a lot of the existential philosophers of that time began looking into thanatology and began kind of looking into the veil between life and death and all that sort of thing. And one philosopher in particular, his name was Hermann Feifel. He was an American psychologist who is considered to be another pioneer of thanatology. He broke the taboo on discussions of death and dying with the publication of his book, The Meaning of Death. And some of you may have heard of this book. It's kind of one of those books that's always hanging around in libraries, I feel like, with a big old spine. But basically in this book, Feifel kind of dispelled a bunch of the myths that were held by scientists and practitioners about death, and the denial of its importance for human behavior. Basically, he said, this isn't something we should ignore. It's not something that has no relevance to life. We're dealing with death every day because everybody around us is dying. And we're kind of like it is death in some ways that gives life meaning, because death is the cessation of life. So knowing every day that there is an endpoint coming, we can argue about whether that endpoint is truly an endpoint or whether it's a change or a passage or a journey or what have you. But knowing that the way that we are living currently today will definitely end at some point and either become something different or just become nothing gives importance to the way that we are living that life today.
Yeah.
Right? It's not like we're just beings who exist forever, and because that's a totally different way of conceiving of things.
Yeah. Unless, of course, we're all just programs. And
True. And we're not alive at all.
And we're not alive at all. That's also up for debate.
Yes. So Feifel's book, The Meaning of Death, got a lot of attention and kind of became a classic of thanatology. He kind of laid the foundation and really brought it into more of, I kind of look at it as Metchnikoff was like the science guy and Feifel was like the philosophy guy. He was kind of like the humanities type dude. And there are a couple other texts, The Experience of Death by, I'm not sure if it's Paul Lewis or Paul Louis, so we're going to go with Paul Louis. Landsberg, The Experience of Death. And then there are a couple fictional works, actually, that are included in, like, the thanatology texts. Lev Tolstoy's The Death of Ivan Ilyich is one. Mm-hmm. That's a book that I've read. It makes sense that it would be included in thanatology now that I look back at it. I was reading it for, like, Soviet history stuff.
Yeah.
But, like, well, not Soviet history stuff, but anyway, whatever. It's included. And then As I Lay Dying by William Faulkner is also included, which is a fucking horrible book. And you can fight me on it because there are people who stand that book so hard, but it's really fucking annoying. But it is kind of cool how we use fiction as well in the study of thanatology, because it's kind of like a... I don't know. It's just kind of like a different lens to explore things through that I think sometimes is more approachable. Like people who would not sit down and read The Meaning of Death could sit down and read The Death of Ivan Illich because it's like telling you a story, right? And it's
Yeah,
not just a
yeah, I
bunch
can
of
see that.
scientific jargon strung together.
Yeah.
So I kind of like that thanatology as a science kind of incorporates a lot of philosophy, literature, and things like that. It's not just quantitative stuff.
Yeah, I can see that.
So obviously, there's a lot of different. I was talking about how thanatology is an interdisciplinary study. There's a lot of different, like, I guess, routes that you could go down. There is coping with death, counseling. There's even a place for it in like financial planning and things like that. But I wanted to focus on its more obvious connection with this show and our topics being forensic science.
Yeah.
So forensic medicine is defined as the application of medical knowledge for the scientific investigation of facts and causal relationships, as well as the analysis and interpretation thereof in the service of the law in its broadest sense.
Well. Hold up. Wait a minute.
Moreover,
Hold on. I know like hell you just didn't put the word this show and facts together.
Moreover, forensic science addresses all legal aspects of the practice of medicine during teaching, medical training, and specialist training. So basically, it's a really fucking long way to say that forensic science deals with investigating sudden, unexpected, or sometimes expected deaths and explaining from a medical perspective what exactly happened.
Okay.
And kind of putting the pieces together, right?
Yes.
So with kind of from that angle, we kind of jump into a very fascinating part of forensic science that is related to thanatology called the body farm. Have you heard of body farms?
I have heard of body farms. I try not to think about body farms.
I wish they weren't
just-
called farms.
And that's
the one
what gets
thing.
me. That's what gets me. Listen,
'Cause
look,
we're not growing.
Exactly. That's the thing. Farms are about growing. Farms are about producing life.
Yeah.
I don't understand what a body. You're not. Are we reanimating
Somebody
the
was
dead here?
being clever.
Are you producing zombies? Is that what really going on? Is that what is really going on here? Are we trying to figure out how to make zombies at these body farms? Because
It would be a great place.
What would be a better body? I don't know what else you would call it.
Yeah. I think this is the problem we fucking ran into. We were like, shit.
They sat around a table and they're like,
Damn.
one guy was like, we can't call it body farms. It doesn't make sense. And the other guy was like, well, do you have a better fucking name, Ted? And he sat there and he put his elbow on his fucking on the table and he just sat and he just looked out the window and he said, all right, fucking call it body farms.
Should have slept at a Holiday Inn, Ted. There you go.
Oh, what about that? A body hotels? No?
No, because you're probably alive. Like, you want to be alive. I think that could lead to some confusion when you're traveling.
Could you imagine?
Just checking in.
I rate this body hotel 2 stars.
Yeah.
Great location.
Convenient. Quiet.
Horrible
really quiet.
amenities.
Really quiet. No, so body farms are actually really cool. They are creepy. I will give you that. They're super creepy. They're really gross. If you are squeamish, do not look up body farm on YouTube or Google Images. If you are not squeamish, fucking go for it. I think they're really cool and they're super beneficial, and we can talk about why. So for those of you who don't know, a body farm is a research facility where decomposition is studied in a variety of different settings. They were invented by an anthropologist, actually, whose name was Dr. William Bass in 1987. And the very first one was actually opened at the University of Tennessee in Knoxville.
Huh.
Which I actually did not know. I knew that they had one in Canada, and I knew that they had one like down south, like
Yeah, I thought
I'm
there
not sure
were
if it's
just 2.
Texas.
I didn't realize there were. I thought
No.
there were only 2.
No, there's actually, so the very first one was the University of Tennessee. But basically, the goal is to gain a better understanding of the decomposition process, which permits the development of techniques for extracting information, such as timing and circumstances of death from human remains. So this is big in forensic science and forensic anthropology, because by studying bodies in body farms, we learn about how the human body breaks down in different sorts of environments, and we can take that knowledge to help solve crimes.
Yeah. And for those of you who don't know, they literally just lay these bodies out
Yes. So they there's one
in the woods.
Yeah. So there's a couple. I think there's at least one in Canada, so that they can study cold weather decomposition, because of
Makes
course it's a
sense.
lot slower.
Yeah.
And different things happen. There's the first one was in Tennessee. There's one in Texas. A couple in Texas actually.
Why Tennessee?
I don't know. I
What-
guess that's where
like-
this Dr. Bass was.
Okay.
There's one in Illinois, there's one in Colorado, one in South Florida, and those are all like very different environments. South Florida in particular is very humid, very
Swampy.
wet. Yes, very swampy. And water, of course, if you've studied true crime, if you've even just listened to a bunch of different true crime cases, if there's ever a situation, what was that show on Discovery that was about like swamp murders?
Oh, I don't know.
There was a show that was specifically dedicated to swamp murders. I remember because the commercial was like this girl in this white dress, and she looked all like maudlin and terrifying, and she like was at the bottom of the swamp, and the commercial was like this badass music, and she's like rising to the top of the water.
All
She's-
right.
whatever.
Okay.
You should look it up. You'd really like it.
Okay.
But when a body is left in water, decomposition speeds up rapidly. Versus when a body's left in a colder climate, sometimes it's better preserved. But by studying the decomposition, we can kind of learn roughly what happens to bodies in different types of environments and what the timing looks like there. And that research has actually been used to solve actual real crimes. So just this past September 2018, they helped solve a cold case, the University of Tennessee body farm.
Oh, okay.
Yes. So it was the case of Tina Marie Farmer. She was found on January 1st, 1985. So this case
Holy hell.
Yes, this case was over 30 years old. She was found, over 30 years old. No, almost 30 years old.
Almost, yeah.
Almost 30 years old. Now I have to count. 95,
Wait, what year?
05,
What year?
2015. Yeah, 2018. It was 33 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Tina Marie Farmer's body was found on Interstate 75 near Jellicoe in Campbell County, Tennessee. And at the time, investigators recorded what they could of her fingerprints and several of her physical features, but they couldn't identify her. And when they couldn't identify her, they brought her to University of Tennessee's Anthropology Research Facility, also known as the Body Farm.
The Body Farm.
Researchers there helped estimate that she was about 20 years old at her time of death. And so they did a bunch of, they recorded a bunch of information forensically and preserved all of that info. And then in September of 2018, investigators were actually able to match the forensic information that they had taken, particularly like some of the prints, with a missing persons report from Indiana, Marion County, Indiana, from 1983.
Wow.
So they actually were able to take her from being a Jane Doe to Tina Marie McKinney Farmer, who was reported missing in 1983. And
Wow.
yeah. So all the way from Tennessee to Indiana, which is kind of interesting. And a lot of people were critical as to why it took them so long to identify Farmer, because they actually had, the body was recovered in decent condition, and they actually had a fair bit of forensic information. But at that time, the National Missing and Unidentified Person System was really not very well developed. We didn't really have the combined DNA index system. It was just sort of getting rolling, and we just didn't keep information on people that way. So it was difficult to put all of that together, and thanks to UT's Body Farm, all of that information was preserved, because of course they go through the bodies that are donated to the Body Farm go through a strict record keeping process. They're always measuring and looking at things and taking information and sampling and all that type of stuff. So that was kind of cool that they were able to help solve that cold case that was so old.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. So one of the things that they're working on currently that's kind of groundbreaking forensics research is the field of stable isotopes.
What?
Yeah. It's called
stable isotopes.
It's called stable isotopes. So if you listened to the Bear Brook podcast,
okay.
It's a really good podcast. They talk a little bit about stable isotopes there. It's basically a technique that analyzes the chemical composition of various tissue samples in the body to reveal details about where a deceased person either lived, or where they came from, or where they spent time prior to their death. It basically gives you clues as to the geographical context of that person, which kind of can give you clues on where to look for missing people. So
okay.
not to ruin anything about the Bear Brooks podcast, because you should definitely listen to it. But basically you can look at the different presence of elements in the body. Like if you live on the coast, there's like a higher presence of something. I don't think it's salt. I think salt is really dumb. But chlorine? No, it's not that. Whatever. Like if you live on the coast, let's just say you have more
depression.
Salt or whatever, or sodium or whatever in your body versus if you live inland. And there's even different like carbon emissions and like things that they can look at like that chemically in the body that kind of stick with you, which is really cool type of thing to look into, because it can help, like with this case of Miss Farmer being from Indiana. If they could have looked at that sort of thing in that case earlier, then maybe they would have known, okay, this isn't somebody local,
right?
Like this isn't somebody from Tennessee. And it even gets so specific that you can separate it out by like towns. Like even looking at this state of Virginia, you could tell like Southern Virginia from like Northern Virginia.
Yeah, you can tell from Dry Fork because they take one look out. She ain't from Dry Fork. She ain't from around here. She ain't from around here. She didn't have her Sam's Club card.
Yeah, that's true.
She didn't have that. She had Costco, so she wasn't from around here. Not here.
Yes.
Can I just point out the fact that I love that it's called stable isotopes at the Body Farm?
Oh.
I just imagine that there's like an actual stable, and they're like
that just has the word isotopes painted on it. Oh my god. Yes.
You need to go check out the stable.
But
isotopes.
inside it's all like crazy high tech and like science laboratory.
Welcome to my Body Farm.
God bless. That would be amazing.
So you mentioned that the bodies were donated, so they're obviously not taken from a black market anywhere.
No, as far as we know, as far as they say, they're not taken from a black market. So you can actually donate your body to a Body Farm after
to this
you die.
podcast.
No. We don't know what the fuck to do with that. We already got too much body, yaddy, yaddy, honey.
Yes.
On this podcast.
Yaddy, yaddy, yaddy.
No, so you can look into donating your body to a Body Farm. I'm sure they would be glad to have you after you are dead. And that actually helps investigators solve crime. It helps us kind of advance the field of forensic science and thereby the field of thanatology to work for good, which I'm actually kind of interested in. It's a little grotesque because you kind of imagine your corpse just laying out there like bubbling in the sun, but I'm sure if we had a Body Farm expert, they could tell us that it probably wouldn't bubble for very long because you're gonna dry up soon, girl.
Yeah.
but it really is a way to kind of use your death as a way to benefit others, by advancing what we know of decomposition and helping to solve cold cases and helping to solve new cases and helping to kind of further our understanding of decomposition and how that sort of thing works, so that we can catch motherfuckers who murder people.
Yeah. So you would consider donating your body?
I would. It's kind of something that I'm like now sort of looking into, because I mean, you think about being buried. I mean, that's kind of like, okay. I mean, everybody does it.
Everybody does that. I'm not going to do that.
I've never liked the idea of being cremated. Not ever. It's just not for me. I always wanted to be made into a tree, but I think in order to be like planted in one of those tree pods, you have to be cremated, which is a huge fucking bummer. So I just figured I would be buried and then make my family like plant a tree above me, and then hopefully it doesn't die.
I would just plant seeds inside you.
Yeah, see, that's what I would want. I would want like the tree to like grow up out of my ribs or whatever.
I would come up. Look, no, I would come up, and your family would be around you, and I would just come up, fucking absolutely distraught, and then they would think that, oh, he's so, whatever. And then I'm wearing all black. I've got a veil, very dramatic, and I just look around and one single tear drops, and then I just fucking pull out a fucking athame and just fucking ritualistically stab you in the fucking gut and rip it open. And then everybody's like, oh!
It's okay, she wanted this.
And I'll pull out a black velvet satchel and then pull out some seeds and then just sprinkle them in and then close the wound back up. Just push the flesh back and then turn around. I've got some blood on my face. And I just...
It is done.
Walk away.
See, as cool as that is, it's also cool to, like, actually be useful and help people. So I'm considering potentially, like, looking into the whole body farm thing. And if you are interested, you should go online, do some research, and maybe consider it yourself. It can be really helpful.
Yeah, I said cremated, but I don't know. I haven't decided yet. I always thought it would be cool to... I like the idea of just being like a creepy, rotting corpse, like in the woods, just fucking laying there. I don't think that's
legal though for us to dispose of you that way.
I mean, and that's what they do in the body farms. Like, I like the idea of just being like a creepy, rotting thing. How beautiful would it be for us to do that and not just like rot side by side together?
I think we might be able to stipulate that.
Or be in one of those body museums.
Yes. Yeah.
And I just want, or do that.
See, I feel like people would say mean things about me though, in a body museum. You know what I mean? Like on the body farm, I'm gonna be beautiful because I'm useful to the scientists that are there. But like in the body museum, you're gonna have this fucking snot-nosed 13-year-old kid coming through and being like, her nipples are weird.
See, that's the thing. I kind of like the idea of the body museum because that sort of eases my like fear of like impermanence. Is that a word?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, at least I would know that like I'm preserved and like still kind of weird.
That's the Leo
and like
in you.
That's the Leo in me. Like I said,
and that's the Virgo in me wanting to be useful.
Yeah. So like I said, some things I'm working through, but I definitely think that I mean, it's still giving back because they still, in the body museums, I'm fairly certain they still use your body to study different things and like
capillaries and it's more medical stuff as rather than like forensic science stuff.
Which path would you want to take? Choose your character after death.
Yes.
So, but yeah, that's our show.
It is. Well, I promised that I was going to tell you if you want more information on how to study thanatology, like actually study it. There are actually 2 colleges that offer a master's degree in thanatology. I don't believe there are any bachelor's level studies in thanatology because, again, like I said, it's kind of something that pairs with something else. So you have your regular field of study and then you kind of put thanatology on top of it. Those 2 universities are Marian University and Hood University in the States. You can also get a certification in thanatology from either the Association for Death Education and Counseling or the Art of Dying Institute.
I came over today and Katie was like, Kenny, I might be certified in thanatology now. I'm like, oh, okay, cool.
I'm not certified yet, but it is really interesting, and I might look into it. So
Yeah.
I'll keep you posted.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's thanatology. So we're interested to hear your thoughts, feelings, reflections on death and dying. So if you have any that you would like to share, we are on Instagram at The Haunted Heart Podcast. We're on Twitter at The Haunted Heart. And on Facebook, you can find us. We have a Facebook page under The Haunted Heart that you can like to stay up to date on all of the news and informations and bullshits. We also have a closed Facebook group. If you search The Haunted Heart Podcast, you can find our group, request to join, and either Kenny, myself, or a member of our Murder Mod Squad will approve you so that you can join and talk about all the bullshits with us there.
Pretty much the only thing we're not on is Zofran.
Yes. And fucking SoundCloud. Because SoundCloud hates us still. If you have like a personal story that you want to share with us, you can email us at thehauntedheartpodcast@gmail.com. When you do email us stories, just let us know if it's chill to share your story on air, because I know that death and dying can be a touchy subject for some people. There may be things that you only want to share with us, which is totally fine. We're happy to do that. But if you send us a heartfelt email that you only want us to read and then we read it on the fucking air, then that would be a huge fucking disaster. So let us know if it's something you're not comfortable sharing, and we won't share it on the air. Otherwise, if you have a story involving death or dying that you think might be interesting, shoot it to us. We would love to take a look and potentially read it on a show.
Yes, the show. I feel like it's a cool new talk show. Well, the show. We'll read your emails and your reviews too. So
Hashtag the show.
hashtag the show.
Oh, and because we mentioned the P.O. Box only like a million times on this episode, if you do...
Only once. Only once.
If you do want to... It's been a while since we gave you our P.O. Box address. If you do have something that you want to send us, a card, any type of shit... please, no dead bodies. Please, God.
Have you checked?
And
the P.O.
probably
box
no
lately?
leeches. Our P.O. Box is P.O. Box 6047, Leesburg, Virginia. That's Leesburg. And the zip is 20178. And you can just send it to The Haunted Heart. Ooh. And I think that is it, my darlings. We will have more information on our podcast festival, which we had mentioned in a hot minute, that is happening in July in Chicago.
Chicago, that windy city.
So we're going to have more information on that for you coming up soon. But if you are interested and you are in the Chicago area or you're traveling to the Chicago area around July 13th, which is the day of the podcast festival, go to tcpf2019.com and you can get tickets. It's going to be a podcast festival. We're going to be there. A Paranormal Chicks is going to be there. A couple other great shows are going to be there. There's going to be live tapings. There's going to be meet and greets. And we're basically just going to be hanging out, chilling. Probably afterwards we'll go to a local bar.
Oh, we will be going to a local bar.
Have some fucking brews. Have some fucking convos. So if you're in Chicago, July 13th, that's going to be super fun. And we'll get you more information soon.
Yes.
And I think that's it. That's all my housekeeping.
That's it. Most of the
Honey,
people
the
have already
floor
left.
is swept. It's fine. I'm like, maybe we should start putting some stuff at the front of the show, but
Just sprinkle it, pepper it throughout the show.
but we have
Start
to complain
talking
about the U.S. healthcare
thanatology,
system.
and then join our Patreon.
If you really want to know what dying feels like. No, I'm just kidding.
Watch our Patreon. No.
All right. So that's going to do us until next time, babes.
You know what you gotta do. Don't die, of course.
Go to the hospital if you need to, but otherwise,
Stay
spooky.